Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hoystory on Air, Season 2, Episode 22. I'm going to do this one live, so we'll see how it goes and we'll see how things perform. Basically, what I'm going to be talking about today, and again, this may be a longer one, so if this doesn't interest you, that's fine. I'll do some shorts later. Just for the record, in about 6 hours or so, I will be on Dave Congleton's show on KVEC 920 AM out of San Luis Obispo to talk about Graham Plattner and Ken Paxton out of Texas, and political parties and not people willing to sacrifice principles to vote for their team. So that's later. What this one is going to be about, and we will see how this works. And I think I'm broadcasting both places I want to broadcast, which is on YouTube and X. This will go Substack, whatnot. We'll see this later, as will Facebook. But what we're going to be talking about today is, and let me get it up here, Steve Pelley. Scott Pelley. I don't know why I'm saying Steve. Scott is our CBS News correspondent. Was fired last week for basically telling his boss to pound sand. That's the sort of thing that'll get you fired. I used to keep a track of what got journalists fired, because it seemed that too often it took too much to get journalists fired. I remember one guy who just left in the middle of the shift on deadline, and that didn't get him fired. He apologized and whatnot. They were forgiving. I don't know if the guy had a panic attack or whatnot, or ask things that will get you fired. Interviewing for another job from your desk in the newsroom when your supervisor's sitting right next to you. That will get you fired. I saw that happen. It was impressive. I don't think they got the other job they were interviewing for either. Not smart. Other thing that will get you fired is calling in sick and saying you cannot make this big press conference or whatnot because you're sick, and then showing up at the press conference stringing for the New York Times. Heard a reporter the paper I was working at who did that. Of course, it's still a newsworthy event, so the paper's going to send someone if you can't go. If you show up at the same event, I was sick, gonna get you fired. So let's listen to the Scott Pelley interview, and let's see what he's got to say. This is gonna be a hoot. I've seen some clips. I haven't paid too much attention to it, but
president's version of events that I felt was a level of political influence that I had never seen in 37 years at CBS News.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I'm Lulu Garcia Navarro, and this is The Interview. It's hard to overstate the impact of 60 Minutes on journalism.
And that's what cigarettes are for.
Most certainly. It's a delivery device for nicotine.
Most people in this country think you are the face of evil, don't they?
I'm just being me.
Since its debut on CBS in 1968, it's been the home of some of the most famous and lauded journalists.
I ask you, as an American,
from Mike Wallace and Ed Bradley
mortar shells going off
to Leslie Stahl, Anderson Cooper, and until this past week, Scott Pelley.
We don't torture people. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, we don't torture people. Waterboarding, we do not. I don't talk about techniques.
Pelley was fired after an explosive.
Yeah, there's a book. I'll try and put it in the show notes. I read it some years ago about the guy who was kind of in charge, FBI agent who was kind of in charge of that, the waterboarding and whatnot. We waterboard, or 20 or 30 years ago. We waterboarded our own pilots. It was, it was part of their training for if they got captured. Is it pleasant? No. Is it going to kill you? Is it the equivalent of pulling out fingernails? I don't think so.
Series of events and much turmoil at CBS, including a controversial financial settlement with President Trump, the sale of the network to David Ellison, and the appointment of Barry Weiss to lead CBS News.
She was putting a thumb on the scale on behalf of the administration.
Pelley, along with a number of other 60 Minutes correspondents who were fired, have now accused Weiss of editorial interference and bias, charges that CBS and Weiss.
See, this I love. Editorial interference. She's the editor. She gets to do editorial interference. It's her job. I mean, I worked in a newspaper newsroom for 15 years. You can't accuse the editor-in-chief of editorial interference because she's the editor-in-chief. She's the boss. Her editorial interference is just doing her editing job.
Deny. We've included a fuller statement from CBS News at the end of the episode. This is Scott Pelley's first sit-down interview since he was fired. Thank you so much for coming in. I know that this is a very difficult moment.
It's not like he's got anything else to do.
You were just fired from the news organization, which you were at the heart of for 37 years.
I can't believe I'm hearing those words.
CBS News.
Yes.
I want to actually start by just...
Maybe the 37 years is, I'm not sure he was at the heart of it for 37 years, for crying out loud. But this I got laid off in 2009 at the San Diego Union Tribune after 9 years, not fired, just laid off. Newspaper industry. That's when the big downturn started. There was some stuff before that. People ask me about that. Even that day, I'm not sitting there.
Just asking you how you're feeling in this moment before we start how you got here.
Well, if we want to talk about it at an emotional level, the best thing that I can imagine in terms of describing it is that it's like your spouse was murdered.
Holy crap! Your spouse, you're likening getting fired for being, frankly, dick to your boss to your wife being murdered? Are you kidding me?
There's some moments of the day I feel fine. There are some moments of the day that I just frankly fall apart when I least expect it. Not that there's any particular trigger, but I do want to be clear.
I'm sorry. He needs to see a shrink, something, because among the things that aren't normal, this is the most not normal thing so far. People get fired from even jobs they love all the time. I'm sorry, that blows up what your job is, and to compare that, wow. This man has issues, obviously.
That I do not feel sorry for me. I don't care about me. I'm fine.
Right.
I care about these people that I left behind, the people who are still trapped there.
Wow. They aren't trapped there.
And this institution.
They can quit anytime they want.
That I love so much. You said that I've been there 37 years. I've been married 42 years.
And what does that say about your wife?
That's the depth of my devotion.
Holy crap, man.
Let's talk about how we got to this moment. A few days before your firing, several high-profile 60 Minutes correspondents and leaders were fired. Leading up to that, there'd been a lot of reporting about changes that were coming to 60 Minutes. Was that the sort of change you were expecting?
No one saw the Black Thursday massacre coming. This is our entire senior staff. People beloved. Tanya Simon, our executive producer, she's the boss. And this was her triumph. She's the first woman ever to be executive producer of 60 Minutes. And she concluded this season with a growth in our audience of 9%, which is unheard of in broadcast television, and a growth in our online presence of 190%. Last season, we had 2.5 billion views. That's a third of humanity. So we're riding high.
Yeah, this is going to get some views. This will get some views online. May get some views on X. It'll get some views online. I don't get squat views compared to CBS News. I mean, I am a rounding error. I'm a rounding error of a rounding error. But the way views are counted, if you flip through this in your little YouTube stream for 3 seconds, for 1 second, if you see it, that's a view. You're not getting, if you watch this for a fraction, you're not getting anything from it. Part of that's the algorithms and whatnot, but okay.
This management team has been brilliant. Tanya has the best first year of any executive producer, and I've worked for all of them. And then the night before, Tanya and I and Dragan Mihailovich, her deputy, et cetera, we're all at the Emmy Awards, and we win 2 Emmy Awards. Within hours, all of those people have been wiped out, and 1/3 of our correspondents have been fired. And at the same moment that happens...
Now, here's another thing where you have issues with this. He touts these numbers. I'm not sure if these numbers are what he says they are. I've seen some reporting. It's like, not so much. But you can get all of that and still have financial issues. You could still be losing money, or, it's private business, not making enough that the boss wants. I mean, I'd love for, good journalism to still exist and break even, but that's not how it works, unfortunately. This CBS News is not a charity, ladies and gentlemen.
We are informed of our new executive producer. His name is Nick Bilton. I'm sure he must be a wonderful man.
No, you don't.
But no one had ever heard of him.
So what?
He has 0 experience in television news and no experience in management. So imagine how we feel when someone like that comes into a shop like 60 Minutes.
Explain to me exactly how you felt.
Shock, dismay, impossible to believe, searching desperately for an explanation, knowing that an explanation would be forthcoming and then not seeing that. No executive at CBS News, our editor-in-chief, Barry Weiss, coming over to 60 Minutes to explain.
By the way, he makes a big deal out of Simon, the first female executive producer of 60 Minutes. Barry Weiss, first female head of a major broadcast operation. But that doesn't count. And the thing is, lots of people I say, oh, Barry Weiss, oh, she's not conservative. She is a lesbian. She is left of center politically. She is just not crazy progressive. And she recognizes, even from a slightly left of center perspective, that 60 Minutes has some bias problems, ladies and gentlemen. They've got some journalism integrity problems too. I may get into those a little bit later.
to talk with us, to sit with us. That's a family at 60 Minutes. My colleagues and I have worked together 10, 20, 30 years. We travel together. We dine together. We go into literal combat together. My former boss and former producer, Bill Owens, saved my life in a firefight in Iraq. So, Lulu, these bonds are pretty tight. And when somebody wipes out, murders a large number of your family members,
getting fired is not murdered. Holy cow. Talk about the self-importance. And he's following along with soldiers. You know, I don't doubt that his producer said, hey, maybe you shouldn't stand in the middle of the street there, and you know, tackled him to the ground. Because reporters sometimes do stupid things. You know, I finally got around to watching the movie Civil War the other day. And, you know, again, it's journalism getting the quote. I kind of enjoyed it. It was reasonably interesting. But, you know, these journalists going from, I mean, yeah, you risk your life sometimes, but you're not in combat. You know, that's, and they generally try and keep the media people reasonably safe. They try and protect them as best they can. It's not like this guy's a fellow soldier. Yeah.
People are hurt and shocked, in disbelief, and just desperate for some explanation. And as you and I sit here today, there still has been none.
CBS leadership says that they tried to get in touch with you to talk about all of those changes before Bilton's first day. And you didn't speak to them. Why not?
I'm almost 69 years old, and if I've learned one thing in life, it is not to reflexively react when you feel that way. And I thought, you know, I'm going to give it a day or something. I'm too emotionally wrought up.
My boss would like to speak to me. I don't want to talk with you right now. I blame you for not talking with me. That's what just happened. They said, hey, we want to talk with you. I'm emotional right now. I can't talk. And then, okay. And then, hey, what? Next day, why didn't you talk with me? Holy cow.
Going to say the wrong thing. I'm not going to hear what they have to say. This isn't the moment. It was incredible to me that they did reach out to talk to me after wiping all these people out. I mean, within hours. So we had a baby shower at the house, and we got through the weekend, and I learned that Nick Bilton was going to speak to the 60 Minutes staff on that next Monday morning. My wife and I had a long-planned hiking trip in the Canadian Rockies planned, and I wasn't going to be able to be at the meeting. And she and I talked about it, realized that this was an existential moment for 60 Minutes, so we canceled the vacation so I could be there. And that was the first time that I had an opportunity to meet Nick Bilton.
At that meeting, you spoke out very forcefully. You asked him why he'd taken the job, knowing, and this is a quote, that you will never be welcome here. Why did you decide to have that first interaction?
Yeah, you said that. That's, wow. It's like, I mean, we reached out to talk to you. I wasn't emotionally ready to talk that day. And so the next day, and so a week, you know, over the weekend, And that's what he comes out with? I mean, I could maybe understand it if that's what came out when he talked with them immediately when they reached out. But you've had a weekend to cool down, dude, and that's what you start with? I wonder why. I wonder why you get sacked. Hey, you tell your new boss, hey, they just hired a new editor and you're never going to be welcome here.
With your new boss in public and not behind closed doors?
It wasn't in public. It was behind closed doors. I was with my family in a closed room. None of this was meant to be public. But Lulu, imagine I'm walking into this room with these people who have devoted their lives.
So when he says family, it's not his wife who we was talking about with the hiking trip. It's his fellow employees at 60 Minutes. I'm not sure that makes it any better.
To 60 Minutes. They have not received any kind of explanation. They are waiting for Barry Weiss to walk in the room in the hope that she's going to explain why this tragedy has occurred and why it was so necessary. And I'm waiting to see who comes in, and it's Nick Bilt.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I got laid off, I from the Union Tribune, along with about 100 and some odd other people. I mean, it was not, you know, a third of his staff. I'm not sure what 60 Minutes staff is, and I'm not sure, you know, how much, if there was a bunch of, you know, meat on the bone there, you know, fat that could be trimmed. But the day I got laid off from the Union Tribune, I remember it pretty well. There were a bunch of photographers gathered outside, chatting down on kind of the outside the employee entrance. There's a ramp up to the employee entrance of the building. And they were kind of chatting, and it was, you know, quietly. That was kind of abnormal. And I went in and went to my desk and sat down, and the first thing one of, you know, my coworkers said to me is that they're laying people off. You know, so-and-so got called in shortly after he sat down, and they handed him his papers and sent him home. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. I didn't think I was going to be one of the ones laid off, because I had certain skills that I knew they would need in the coming months and weeks and whatnot. But, you know, well, let's, you know, that person's slated to do this job today. Let's go and talk with our boss and see how we're going to divvy up the additional work. And as we were getting ready to stand up and talk to my boss, my phone rang. And it was my boss's boss, Matt, I'd like you to come into my office. And I got laid off. The editor-in-chief of the newspaper at the time, Karin Winter, did not call an all-hands meeting in the days before this happened. That morning, she didn't call an all-hands meeting and explain to everyone, hey, some of you are going to be on, you know, looking for a new job here and, you know, tomorrow. It was just, and some of the people who got laid off had been there for years and years. And the photographers who were chatting, you know, they were down there chatting because several photographers had already been laid off that morning. And who's next? I don't understand what kind of wonderland or whatnot that he thinks is happening here. I'm turning this way sometimes to monitor the live broadcasts. We'll see how those work.
And one of Barry's deputies, no Barry. People are...
Again, I got laid off by my boss's boss. My boss's 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 boss would have been the editor of the paper. So this is the equivalent of his new boss coming in. It's not the over. I mean, I don't. What's he bitching about?
A little shocked by this. As we're standing in there, Nick makes his way to the front of the room and does something absolutely jaw-dropping to me. He pulls out his phone and begins reading a statement off his phone in a room full of 50 heartbroken people. The
Would it have been better if it was on paper? I mean, I kind of would prefer paper or a tablet, but, you know, that's what people do nowadays. Is, you know, it's written on their phone. So what was he supposed to do? Really?
callousness, the
That's callous?
tone deafness of that, you could hear the groan in the room when that happened. They'd put out a big spread of bagels, like we were all going to feel better. And also, if I can give you a little bit of context,
Please.
what had happened a couple of days before the meeting was so critical. Nick Bilton wrote an email to the staff, sort of introducing himself. And it was so insulting to the staff and so insulting to the history of 60 Minutes. He told us in that email that it wasn't 1968 anymore.
Yeah.
And he helpfully noted that gasoline doesn't cost 32 cents anymore. And suggested that we had all been frozen in amber in 1968 when the program first went on the air, and that nothing had improved. And he said in his email that it was, quote, strange, end quote, that 60 Minutes is only on the air at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday once a week. When we've been on the air 24/7 globally online for well over a decade. It betrayed the fact.
He's just being obtuse here. I mean, that's like saying the paper only you only print the paper once a day in the morning. Oh, we have an internet site. Willfully obtuse.
That Nick Bilton didn't know anything about us, didn't know anything about our culture, and yet was being imposed on us as our new executive producer, our new leader.
I don't know.
So people read that memo. It's very concerning. It's heartbreaking. It's hard to compare this to anything other than something that actually could happen to your family. It's a very loving and empathetic organization. And we were met with cold, callous indifference to what anyone thought.
Why did you feel that you were the person that needed to get the answers to the questions that you had and everyone
Because
had
he has
at
the
that
biggest
meeting?
ego.
Why did you feel compelled to speak up?
It was fate. First of all, our entire senior staff had been wiped out. They're not there. I looked around the room. I'm the only correspondent there, which surprised me very much. I learned that my colleagues were out shooting stories, as they should be in the month of June. But I'm the only correspondent there, which surprised me. And I looked around at my friends and colleagues in the room and realized I was the senior person. Only I could do it. None of them could be asked to take that risk.
At least he knew it was a
So
risk.
when I saw
Oh, buy my book.
Nick Bilton's email and then saw him reading to my broken-hearted people off his phone, I felt that somebody had to stand up for the broadcast, not just the broadcast, but the people. There are people in that room who go to war zones when they are pregnant.
That's not smart. Don't.
Newsrooms
Don't do
are
that.
sort of like the military or the police
No, they
or
aren't.
the beautiful people at the FDNY down the street. It is a life-threatening job in many instances.
No, in few instances.
And
in very few instances,
very
is
strong
journalism a
bonds,
life-threatening
very
job.
emotional bonds
60
are
minutes,
found
maybe
or
more
are
than
developed
most, but
in that kind of setting.
most journalism is not a life-threatening
And to
job.
have people
It is not.
running CBS News who don't know that, have never felt that.
60 Minutes is probably different. In CBS News, they have war correspondents. Those people are less than 1% of news people in this country. The ones who are who truly do dangerous things more than any other human being. War correspondents, yes. I mean, police ride-along isn't even. I've done police ride-alongs before. It's not that dangerous. It's not. If you're covering a structure fire, you are not the one running into, as a journalist, to save a cat or a dog or running in there for some other reason to save a person. It's not the journalist that runs in there. It's not the same. It's not.
And don't understand it is a tragedy I never expected to see.
You know, Barry Weiss came into the job with a mandate to evolve and modernize CBS News, to reinvent legacy media. In that meeting, you said Weiss was, and I'm quoting here, murdering 60 Minutes, language that you've used here.
Which is dumb.
Can you explain to me what you mean by that?
It's dumb.
You're using words like massacre, murder. What do you mean by that?
It was the wholesale nature of it. Our senior staff wiped out after a triumphal year. Let's remember that. If the ratings had collapsed or there was some journalistic scandal about a story, then okay, we deserve it. But we had a triumphal year, so this is incredibly difficult to understand. Cecilia Vega, Sharon Alfonsi, our very best correspondents.
Sharon Alfonsi is horrible. She is a hack. I'd encourage you, if you have not seen it, to go back and look at some of her reporting in Florida on the COVID vaccine distribution. It was dishonest editing. It should have gotten her fired. That should have gotten her fired. She dishonestly edited Governor DeSantis' remarks. She tried to run with this narrative that even Democrats in the state were saying, hey, you're out of line, you're wrong, this is a lie. Prominent Democrats, not some, random guy off the street. People who were in the know said, hey, you're wrong. And they ran with it anyways. She's also the correspondent, and 60 Minutes is the outlet that did this fawning, and I talked about this at the time, I think, way back when, and I played some video of it, and it got me not necessarily copyright strike, but like they wouldn't show, YouTube wouldn't even show it, because I grabbed like a minute and a half of the 60 Minutes report on Germany's censors and how they go after people who say the wrong things. And it was like a 12 or 15 minute piece, and you should go look it up. Not a dissenting voice was found. They didn't ask anyone about free speech. It's like it was Big Brotherish. It was newspeak. It was creating. It was propaganda, and they didn't renew Sharon Alfonsi's contract, and that's a good thing. Horrible.
Just summarily fired for No stated reason.
Alfonsi
And
wasn't
without
fired.
explanation.
Her
This is
contract wasn't
1/3 of
renewed.
our correspondent corps. So this isn't like they fired our boss, which they did. They wiped out a large number of people. One of the things Nick Bilton said in that ill-fated email to the staff was that he was excited to tell, I'm paraphrasing here, he was excited to tell the staff about the new crop of correspondence. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, they're going to fire all of us eventually. That's the plan. He put it in writing for all of us to see.
You don't know the plan. He didn't.
And so that's why I use these, admittedly for a journalist, hyperbolic terms.
No,
they capture the scale of what happened.
You then do have a meeting with CBS leadership after this very contentious interaction. Can you tell me about that meeting and if you were at that point going in expecting to be fired?
Oh, gosh, furthest thing from my mind. It hadn't occurred to me. The president of CBS News, Tom Sabrowski.
That's one of those things where it's like, you know, I think I'm going to say this, and if you don't think that some of what he said would get him fired, the disconnect there is frankly pretty amazing.
Sent me a note and said, can you come by and talk to us? And I said, absolutely. I scheduled about an hour on my calendar for the meeting. I didn't know who was going to be there in the meeting. So I walk in the door and I see Barry Weiss is sitting in there, and I think, this is terrific of her. She's come to this meeting. And now I'm going to be able to ask her these questions. She's going to be able to explain what happened.
But it really didn't occur to you that you could be fired after so many of your colleagues had been let go, after you'd had this, very contentious
He just said that, hey, they're going to fire us
your
all.
New boss?
You know, some reporter I turned out to be.
Yeah.
I just didn't connect the dots. I mean, was this meeting contentious? Yes, but 60 Minutes is known for two things: a ticking stopwatch and hard questions. And we ask ourselves those hard questions in the shop because they sharpen us and make us better.
Joe Biden.
There was a screening
See
once
if you can identify a
with
hard
Mike
question.
Wallace, and Mike and the executive producer and founder of 60 Minutes, Don Hewitt, got into a big argument about a script. Wallace jumps up in the middle of the screening, throws his script up in the air, and yells at Don, well, then you write the effing thing. One of those pieces of paper comes down and slices an associate producer across the face. He's bleeding now. He's got a paper cut on his face.
Journalism's dangerous. War zones. Paper cut.
That was about a story. The meeting that I was in was about whether 60 Minutes was going to even survive or not.
So you walk in, and what was the energy of the room?
Hostile. Dismissive. Before I could take my seat, Tom Sabrowski said, this is a firing offense.
Yeah?
I was confused. I wasn't sure who he was talking about in the room. But it became plain very quickly that they were talking about me, and they were unhappy about the.
Wow. I mean, I'm not sure if that's like a sheltered life or this guy is just, early onset also. I don't know, but wow.
Meeting that had occurred. A meeting that had ended in thunderous applause for me, if I may say so, because somebody had stood up for the broadcast. So I sit down, like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Tom accuses me of physically abusing Nick Bilton. This is a lie. I didn't come within 10 feet of Nick Bilton. In my life, I have never put my hands on anyone in anger. Not one time.
Well, that makes him better than Graham Platter.
And when he was caught in that lie, he said, well, okay, I take that back. And I said, great. Conversation proceeded a little bit. I turned to Barry Weiss, who was sitting to my left, and I said, but let's talk about the firings. Why were the firings necessary? I'm not answering that question. Well, how did Tanya Simon not lead the broadcast brilliantly? I'm not answering that question. Okay, Sharon Alfonsi, Cecilia Vega. I mean, what possible reason could there be to take them off the air? I'm not answering that question. So now I'm detecting a pattern.
Now, for the record, we've only got his. I guess we should trust him. Maybe she said that. You know, we've only got his say-so on this, but let's say he's telling the truth. Okay, fine. Maybe not the purpose of the meeting. And yeah, just get over yourself. I mean, seriously.
That's going to go nowhere. She is still going to stonewall about why she took all these people out.
I can tell you why she took some of them.
So
and again,
I'm thinking that the meeting's going to carry on. We're going to have a long.
How do contracts work? I agree to work for you for X dollars for this, for Y period of time. Y period of time ends. That was there some clause in the contract where this is renewed at the reporter's option indefinitely?
Long conversation. I'm going to hear from them about what they think. They're going to hear from me about what I think. The temperature in the room is low, but it's very hostile from their side. I'm speaking about the way I'm speaking to you now. Very quickly after the meeting began, Tom Sobrowski said, "This conversation is over." I was stunned. I didn't have a 60-minute stopwatch in that room. I don't know how long it lasted really, but I think it was about 10 minutes. So they tell me, that is to say, Tom Sobrowski tells me as I'm walking through the door, "You'll have our answer in a few minutes." I went over to my office, and much to my surprise, all of my guys on my team were still there. They wanted to know what happened in the meeting. What was that all about? Did they explain why our people were fired?
That's normal.
And I sat down in my office. It has a big plate glass window that looks out on the newsroom, and there were a whole bunch of people standing out there, but I didn't think anything of it. I'm waiting to find out what my fate is. I explained to my team, I think I just got fired, but they haven't told me that. And then I look up, and all those people are still out there, and the staff members, and I don't think anything of it. And then it hits me. This is a vigil. An hour goes by, 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by, 4 hours go by, and I go back outside and said, "I'm leaving." They've been standing out there for 4 hours. I said, "I'm leaving. You guys have got to go home to your families right now. I doubt they're going to tell me
You guys
tonight."
need to do your job.
So I packed up and left just so those people would go home.
Camp out for
And
4 hours.
not long after that, the email came through and said that I'd been fired.
Just to understand your position in this, you would have been open to a path forward? You wanted to remain at 60 Minutes?
Absolutely. A path forward to me was obvious
Was the other guy getting fired?
Conclusion for what this meeting was going to be about. That's exactly what I thought. And I expected them to say, "Look, this is why we had to fire everybody. I mean, your questions, Scott, are valid, and here's why we did what we did." So stay at 60 Minutes? Absolutely. It didn't occur to me that this could happen.
But Scott, in a meeting, you accused Barry Weiss, the head of the network, of wanting to murder the show, of coming into 60 Minutes with the agenda to dismantle the institution, and you did not think that that was going to have repercussions that could lead to your firing?
used to be able to have
Excellent
conversations
question.
like that at CBS News.
I used to be able to accuse people of all sorts of things and nothing ever happened to me. That says something about the culture there. I'm not sure that's a good thing. I'm not sure that's a good thing about the culture there. Wow.
difference today is that the people running CBS News will not be questioned.
I want to take a step back because, of course, all this.
There's a difference between being questioned and being accused of murdering the show and murdering family. And it's like when your spouse dies. There's levels there.
Didn't happen in a vacuum. The saga really at CBS News began when David Ellison, the son of Oracle billionaire Larry Ellison, took over CBS as part of his purchase of Paramount. There was a lot of turmoil around that sale. The longtime previous owner of Paramount and CBS, Sherry Redstone, told my New York Times colleague that she sold the company.
Oh my God, she's reading off a tablet. That's kind of like a really big phone. Is Pelley offended by this? I'm not sure.
To Ellison in part because after Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th, she wanted to devote herself to causes around Israel. I'm sure there were other reasons as well. Did you ever speak to Ms. Redstone about the sale, and how did you feel about it?
I didn't speak to Sherry Redstone about the sale. I felt the sale was very necessary. The company was in financial trouble. It wasn't clear what our path.
Your ratings does not mean that you were out of financial trouble. This doesn't necessarily, finding a new owner does not necessarily solve your financial problems. I'm not surprised that the CEO doesn't deign to explain her reasoning or what needs to happen to Scott Pelley. This is not shocking to me. But the fact that he can't see that there may still be a problem, which is financial issues, which is why some of these people are getting laid off, aside from, as I've already identified with Alfonsi, journalistic issues, and maybe Pelley as well.
Path forward was going to be just as a company. Mr. Ellison came in with a lot of money behind him, a young man of vision, and I thought this is going to be very good for all of us. The very last thing that the previous ownership did was pay a multi-million-dollar bribe to the president to settle this frivolous, ridiculous lawsuit. And very shortly after that, somehow, the Trump administration approved the sale. So
I agree. That was kind of sketchy.
Lawsuit against 60 Minutes had caused a great deal of concern in 60 Minutes. Paying the bribe broke our hearts. No lawyer thought that was necessary, but they did it to get the sale through. And at that point, my colleagues and I thought, great, that's behind us. We have bright new leadership with financial resources. We're in better shape than we were before. That was the theory.
Just to give the context here, President.
He doesn't need, here's the thing. It's nice when a new owner with lots of money comes in. They are not obligated to continue losing money.
President Trump had sued 60 Minutes over an interview of Vice President Kamala Harris during the 2024 election. As you mentioned, Paramount under Sherry Redstone settled the case, even though many legal experts believed that there was no merit to the suit, and they paid $16 million to the president. Paramount denied that those two things were linked, that payment and then the deal going through. And correct me if I'm wrong, am I hearing you say that You supported the sale to Ellison. Had you lost confidence in the leadership of Shari Redstone at that point?
They bribed the president to get the deal done. So, yeah, there was a massive collapse of confidence in the previous ownership.
So the deal goes through and Ellison takes over. What assurances, if any, did you get from David Ellison and the new leadership that there wouldn't be interference at 60 Minutes? Did you ask for those assurances? Did you speak with David Ellison?
The morning the merger was announced as complete, I was amazed that, as far as I know, the first stop that David Ellison made in his new empire was 60 Minutes, CBS News. First thing in the morning, he's walking through the 60 Minutes offices. He comes in, walks into my office and extends his hand and says, "I'm proud to meet you, sir." He called me. I guess I'm just old. But, and I told him how wonderful it was to meet him. He walked out into our newsroom and made a very nice speech about independence, about how important 60 Minutes was to the corporation writ large, and essentially telling everybody that they were going to take care of us. We were walking on air. We liked him. He had the financial backing to back up his words. And we thought a bright new era was coming after all the previous difficulty.
Ellison then hires Barry Weiss to run CBS News. Weiss, we should say, is a former opinion writer at the New York Times who left to start her own publication after claiming bias in the Times opinion section. I never worked with her, for the record. The Free Press, which she launched, is generally pro-Israel. It bills itself as pushing against what it sees as the mainstream media.
Well, it's pro-Israel in the fact that, unlike the New York Times opinion pages nowadays, they don't accuse the Israeli prison system of training dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners, which doesn't happen. But, you know, there you go.
What did you make of her appointment?
I was not familiar with her name, so I...
This is befuddling. It's tough. This is like being in the automotive industry and not being familiar with Elon Musk. If you're in journalism, it just blows my mind how you could not at least be passingly familiar with who she was and who she is before she was given that job. I'm not sure what that says about Pelley.
Did some research and discovered those things that you just outlined. She was going to be the new editor-in-chief at CBS News. There never had been a title like that at CBS News. It's sort of a print title. It doesn't really translate to television, but she wanted to call herself that. What concerned me was that she had zero television experience and had never managed a large global operation like CBS News. Those were red flags to me.
Here's the thing. There are not many people who come in that job who could have that prior experience. I mean, how, manage a large global news operation, ABC, CBS, NBC, BBC, CNN, Associated Press. Well, that's print. Reuters, print. That Reuters would be print too. There's not many people who can come into the job he's describing with the experience that he's suggesting they need to have. He couldn't. They could have promoted him to editor-in-chief, and he doesn't have the experience managing a large global television operation. The difference between television and print, I mean, there's some technical things you need to know, but I'm not sure, journalism's journalism, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sympathetic with him on this analysis.
But I thought, David Ellison thinks she's the right person for the job. We are absolutely going to welcome her, listen to her, and give her the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, I'm surprised that you hadn't heard of her. She's a lightning rod in journalism.
She just hadn't crossed my radar. And if I hadn't heard of Barry Weiss at that point in time, that probably tells you more about me than it does her.
Yeah.
So
it does. There you go. I'll take
when
that.
Barry comes in, she has a meeting with senior 60 Minutes staffers. And in that meeting, she asked, and I'm quoting, why does the country think you're biased?
Because you are.
Is that a correct assessment of that?
I wasn't there.
I see.
But that is what I've been told by my colleagues who were there. And they were shocked. That was sort of her help.
It's a cocoon. Fish don't know they're wet. I mean, it's... Mainstream media is biased. It's got a leftward bias. If it wants to try and, run it down the middle, that's going to take some tacking to the right. That's just the way it's going to be required. This is something that's ancient. I mean, this is a complaint that goes back 2, 3, 4, longer, more than that. But like the first person who, Bernie Goldberg, ring a bell? Author of Bias, book Bias, who called out a CBS, news fact check. It wasn't called a fact check at the time, but that's what it was. Way back when I was a wee newspaper reporter.
Low to the staff at 60 Minutes.
What was the feeling about that particular opening salvo to the team?
She, I am told, said something to the effect of, why do you think the country thinks you're biased? But she didn't offer any kind of a metric. What's your metric? Why do you think so? Do you have a poll? Is there market research? What are you talking about?
Has he not seen polls? Pew does polls all the time about, the media. I mean, check out my book. Because I talk about this in my book, and I quote, I point to some polls.
Because we certainly didn't believe that.
Of course.
And
fish don't know they're wet.
We just felt that she was making statements that perhaps she couldn't back up, and was coming into the news division with hardened, preconceived notions that didn't seem to be thought through.
You have now accused Weiss of injecting, and I'm quoting here, falsehoods and bias. This was in your parting statement, into at least one of your politically sensitive stories. Can you tell me the nature of that complaint? What did she specifically ask for? What story are you talking about?
As I recall, that's February, and my team and I are doing a story about the protests in Minneapolis against the ICE crackdown there. We've interviewed Senator Rand Paul, Republican, because he's going to hold hearings into this. And the fact that a Republican was going to do that was quite newsworthy. So we interviewed Senator Paul and then built out a story about what had happened. The killing of Renee Good, the killing of Alex Preddy, the protests. I felt it was very important to identify that the protesters themselves were being very aggressive and that they were half of these confrontations. Mm-hmm. And so I instructed my producers to find images over the past few weeks of these protests in which we see the protesters acting aggressively. We found a picture of a protester chest bumping an officer. We found a picture of an officer being hit in the head with a snowball. We culled together a lot of video of protesters screaming in the faces of officers.
The Alex Preddy thing, and I said this at the time, and I still say it, that I think that was a bad shoot, personally. I think he was unwise to be armed doing what he was doing. It was just dangerous. But after he was shot, there came video of him kicking out the tail light of a SUV, an ICE SUV. They came up with a snowball and a chest bump.
Because we were going to talk about the killing of Preddy and the killing of Good, and it seemed to me important to tell the audience about the entire context.
Yes.
In fact, I remember writing a line in the story that said that the protesters were pushing the boundaries of what it means to peacefully assemble, taking the...
No. They crossed over that. They crossed over that. If you can't tell that a lot of what was happening in Minneapolis was not peacefully assembling, then you've lost your ever friggin' mind. This is the bias right here. This is the bias.
Language from the First Amendment. And I thought we'd done a really good job with this. We also included a picture of Alex Preddy before he was killed, kicking out a taillight on a police car.
Good.
And made a point of saying, this is Alex Preddy and this is what he did. So the story goes through screenings. It's very well received. There are notes, as always, and we do rewrites, as always. But this is on a very tight deadline. It's Sunday. We're going on the air that night. And in the case of stories that are, as we say, crashing, meaning right against the deadline, our deadline on Sunday is noon. So we work on all of these things. We get the piece approved by everyone. And about 4 hours after our deadline, Barry Weiss sends an email to my boss, Tanya Simon. Two of the things in the email include, can we make the protesters look more violent? Now, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the quote, but that's what was communicated to me.
And see, that's what someone like on the left would say, oh, if the order was, we have not shown accurately the level of violence occurring in Minneapolis against ICE agents, that we've selected a chest bump and a snowball, and then we finally get to the Preddy kicking out the SUV. Maybe the thing was, I think through your choice of pictures and images that you're downplaying the violence. That's not an accurate portrayal of the level of violence that is occurring in Minneapolis. And if those are your three things, I think that's a fair criticism. But I can also see how Pelley would look at that and say, look at that criticism and that editorial judgment and say, oh, you're wanting me to make these people look more violent. Well, maybe I'm just asking to make it look more accurate, because what I'm seeing in your report does not jive with what I'm seeing from the CBS Nightly News, or what's on CNN, or what's on Fox News, or what's being, recorded by independent journalists and posted on Twitter. That there's a disconnect there, that you're soft pedaling it. That's what I think happened there.
The other thing was Renee Good's car. You need to describe her as driving toward the officer. This is not what you see on video.
Yes, it is. She hit him. This is the bias again. She hit the officer. The officer had a big bruise on his hip. You don't get a big bruise when someone's driving, who's not driving towards you. They have to hit you. This is a confession, ladies and gentlemen. This is a confession. He doesn't realize it's a confession, but it's a confession.
On the video, you see the officer standing slightly off the front of the car, and you clearly see Miss Good's wheels turned completely as far as...
He couldn't see that. And that car jumps towards him.
They will go away from the officer.
And yet
but he
the
shoots
officer
her
was still hit.
in the head, kills her, and says something about her in that moment that I can't repeat in polite company.
Which is frankly kind of a natural response.
So we have gone out of our way in our plan from the very beginning to show the protesters for the responsibility that they had. We had already scrubbed the video archives looking for those scenes. But it somehow wasn't enough for Ms. Weiss. The video showed that the officer wasn't standing in front of the car and she wasn't driving toward him, but that's what the president said about that, and that's the way she wanted it described.
See, this is his left-wing perception. That's what this is. The officer was hit. If she was going to miss him, he wouldn't have been hit. He was hit.
To be clear, there were lots of videos that showed different moments of that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And there was many analyses subsequently about what exactly through those various videos had actually happened.
Including an excellent one by the New York Times. The video that I showed in our piece clearly showed the officer's feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, I talked about this at the time and these videos, and I will put a link.
So if he's standing in front of the car, you can't see his feet.
First.
And it very clearly showed that the wheels were turned away from him.
He couldn't see the wheels.
What appeared to be the maximum turn until the wheel had stopped.
So you get those suggestions?
Because I get criticism of the New York Times analysis too, because there were some questions about that. But I'll see if I can find the video.
Feedback from the sort of editorial chief of CBS News. What did you do? I mean, did you do as she asked?
I asked my producers, look, I told you to find violent video of the protesters so we could represent that accurately. Now I want you to go back and look again. Did we leave anything out that's important? What did we make a mistake here? I don't think so, but go back and look. And then I sat down with a video editor and I went over the video of the Renee Good killing over and over and over again, stop motion, slow motion, etc., and realized that the event was not as the president said and not the way Barry Weiss remembered it. And so it's late. Our deadline was noon. It's now almost 5 o'clock. That's dangerous as hell. And so I decided that I wouldn't do those things. I wasn't going to get in a debate about it. I wasn't going to call Barry Weiss about it. I was just going to refuse to make those changes.
Did you change any language in the broadcast? Anything?
Not that I recall based on her notes, but as you probably are aware, when you're doing a story, especially on deadline, a lot of things happen. There's a lot of input, and you're just scrambling to save everybody's skin because you're going to have a crash which is what happened. Next day, I didn't hear anything. Nobody called, nobody said anything. It occurred to me that maybe Barry Weiss didn't see the broadcast and didn't realize that those changes hadn't been made. But that's how that happened. There was a thumb on the scale for the president's version of events that I felt was a level of political influence that I had never seen in 37 years at CBS News.
The thing is, it's like if the president and 50 million people say you're wrong and you're being deceptive, then it's the president. It's not all the other people who say, look, you're out of line on this. If this is the only one he's got to point to, I think that's a little weak. And again, watch my other video. It was from January 8th. Again, I'll put a link to it up here. I'm trying to get, where am I on my broadcast? Hour, 8-minute mark or so. I'll put it, make sure I get that link in.
Why was that the interpretation? I mean, could she not have been trying to be fair to the administration at a moment of very high tension?
Yeah.
She could have been trying to be fair to the administration, except I felt that the story was abundantly fair to the administration.
Again, this is when you're so far left, it's like, okay, I'm trying to be fair, but there's only so far right he can go.
And to the ICE officers and to the Border Patrol officers who were caught in that moment, we were being told to write a version of events that conflicted with the video account. I couldn't understand that. We had already done, in my view, the important work of journalism to balance the story. Finally, the story was not out of balance. It was not out of balance. But there was a thumb on the scale to push the balance a little further in another direction.
He doesn't know what balance is. He doesn't know.
Is it possible to see this as the system working? She had notes, you felt they didn't make sense to take, the piece ran, and there was no retaliation.
There should have been retaliation.
Well, it was the interference is a problem.
Characterizing Weiss, and if Weiss had come after him and said, hey, that shouldn't have run because you didn't address the issues that I thought were important with that I noted, that's not retaliation. That's not retribution. That is accountability is what that is.
Especially a story that's been approved by the top editors. And
it's the
bigger problem, Lulu, frankly, is not any kind of political influence. The problem was the incompetence. You don't break a deadline. Now this is 4 hours after. That episode of 60 Minutes came within 19 minutes of not making.
Deadlines get broken all the time. I mean, I remember an old cartoon, that likened to a deadline as being a line over which you do not cross. It's like, you put that around prisoners or something. Don't cross this line. And likening that to journalistic deadlines. Deadlines are stretched. That happens, maybe not in TV, maybe not at 60 Minutes, maybe not often, but it happens regularly enough that this is a little overwrought.
Making air the entire hour of 60 Minutes. It was the night of the Grammys. 60 Minutes was the lead into the Grammys. And we almost didn't have a broadcast. 19 minutes. I can't imagine that's ever happened before. And pledged to
wouldn't have put
myself
dead
at
air
that
on.
time that no matter what Barry Weiss wanted to do in a story, I would never break the deadline again because we put the entire network in jeopardy.
Scott, I want to ask you point blank. What did you think was going on with Barry Weiss? Why did you think she was asking for these things?
The impression that I had at the moment was that she was representing, let me try, I kind of need to be a little bit careful here because I don't want to be hyperbolic. My impression at the time was that she was putting a thumb on the scale on behalf of the administration. Just constantly
In this case, on the behalf
looking out for.
See, the thing is, the requests that she made, if you look at them more the way I've described them, is not, it's putting something on the scales for truth, for what the truth is. It says, it says something about you if you, and it's not good, frankly, if you think that the truth, and just because this one time, and I'll confess, what this administration says and the truth are often far apart. But in this case, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. I think this defense that he is, oh, you know, she's doing this because of Trump. I don't think that's not something I've seen Barry Weiss do, and I don't think that this case is evidence of her doing that.
The views of the president. We're reporting those views. There's nothing wrong with reporting those views, but it was never enough. Always needed more from the president, from the administration, that sort of thing. The balance was off.
Yeah.
We've been working for balance for decades, and for the first time in my career, the balance was off.
I mean,
Dan Rather, Bush National Guard records. First time in his career? First time. I just think he doesn't recognize it.
we should say Cecilia Vega, who was recently fired, also alleged interference in 60 Minutes after she was let go. Sharon Alfonsi as well. You are now doing the same. These are three highly respected, longtime journalists who are
I'm not sure how much I respect them.
basically echoing the same claim. CBS has denied any bias or interference, saying in a recent statement that changes and disputes were merely the, quote, normal back and forth between editor and correspondent that happens in every newsroom. I just want to pause before we go on. A more generous interpretation of Weiss's tenure might be that her missteps have been due to a lack of experience, not deliberate bias or malice. You know, just thinking again about your comment about her murdering 60 Minutes, could inexperience be the real problem and less a conspiracy to do away with CBS News?
I think inexperience is the larger part of the problem. At a certain point, I began to think that a political bias was going to be our big problem. And then later, it occurred to me that it was the inexperience, the incompetence that was the bigger problem, the breaking of deadlines, all that kind of thing. I will never do that again. That was an existential
You'll
experience.
never do that again.
I mean, we are required to do our jobs.
Because you got fired.
And so the most difficult thing, I think, for the staff is trying to make up for all of these missteps in terms of our production and in terms of the technical aspects of television. It's been enormously stressful.
Another high-profile 60 Minutes host, Anderson Cooper, declined to renew his contract too this year. And at the end of his final show, he went on air and said, "I hope 60 Minutes remains 60 Minutes." That was seen as a swipe at Barry Weiss. Did you talk to Anderson about why he did not renew his contract and his reasons for leaving?
I did not.
Okay. Was his declining to renew his contract seen as a problem for 60 Minutes or a sign that something was amiss? I mean, how did you receive that news?
Well, correspondents don't resign from 60 Minutes. It's, for people like me, it's the greatest job in the world. There is nothing else to aspire to. And so if a person of Anderson Cooper's stature decides that he has to leave the broadcast, that's an indication that he has found.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to take that. You know, it's who knows why, and maybe you know, this is speculation. It's probably not worth the air it's being used to broadcast.
His role there, untenable.
Bandwidth.
It's been reported that Barry Weiss was upset that Anderson Cooper's comments had aired in that way.
That's my understanding.
Do you think that was part of the reason executive producer Tanya Simon was let go?
Yes.
There you go. There you go. You can't do that sort of thing. You can't thumb your nose at the boss and say, "Oh no, I'm so important. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be held accountable." How businesses work. 101. This shouldn't be difficult.
Yes. My understanding from people directly involved in that interaction is that Barry Weiss was quite livid that Anderson Cooper was allowed to say those things, and that Barry was not consulted beforehand, which in our normal course of business would not have been done anyway.
Let's talk about our normal course of business. Our normal course of business is journalism. If you take if I'm going to run a piece and they're going to take a swipe at someone and I'm going to air that swipe, you kind of have a duty to go to the person who was attacked and say, "Would you like to comment on it? Would you like to respond? We're going to air this. Would you like to respond?" You can't take a swipe at the head of the news division and then say, "Oh, well, we don't consult the head of the news division when we take a swipe at her." Wow.
And I believe that that was part of the reason Tanya was let go. But she wasn't let go for cause. She was let go to create a space for the new person, Nick Bilton, to come in.
Which they can do if they want.
Tanya
how businesses work.
Was completely blindsided by this. She was told that she was coming into a meeting to discuss the past season and the next season. Kind of a lessons learned and planning meeting. So she doesn't go there with a lawyer or with a witness of any kind. She walks in, she sits down. I'm told that Tom Sobrowski and Barry Weiss are in there. And Tom starts the meeting with, "The nature of this meeting has changed. We're letting you go." And just told her she was fired and had to get out of her office by 5 o'clock. Can I give you a little bit of background? The Simon family is legendary at CBS News. Her father was a famous Vietnam correspondent, and then Bob Simon covered every single war, everywhere in the world throughout his entire career. I was with him in...
I'm not sure going the Nepo baby route is the way to Bob Simon maybe would have been a good executive producer at 60 Minutes. His daughter, I'm more than sick and tired of the Nepo baby crap. You look at one of my old podcasts where I, take, was it Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas's kid, got a shock on CNN when he heard a dissenting view for the first time and did not handle it well. Why is a 22-year-old on CNN and has a show on, I think he has a Sirius XM show weekends or something for an hour or two? Why does he have that? Because his dad's Michael Douglas and his mom's Catherine Zeta-Jones. We have to have Tanya Simon because she's Bob Simon's kid. Not going to get a whole lot of sympathy from most people.
Kuwait, during the Gulf War in 1990, we would stand on the roof of the hotel and watch the missiles come in. He taught me how to be a war correspondent. And then Tanya Simon comes in. She's at the broadcast 30 years. There is no respect for that. Get out of the office by 5 o'clock. What company in the world treats their precious people in that way?
He's been at CBS News too long. Lots of companies do this. This is not uncommon. Sheltered life or something. Wow.
The callousness, the inhumanity, breathtaking, complete lack of empathy in this management for anyone who works there. How can you have someone who deserves so much respect? Tanya Simon spent her whole childhood waiting for the call that her father was dead, never knowing if she would ever see him again. Her whole childhood. Get out by 5 o'clock. Make of that what you will.
Is it nice? No, it's not nice. She had, it was, I'm not sure a kid goes through their entire life. I mean, he wasn't in a war zone, 24/7 for her entire childhood. It's not like we had 100 years war or something where he was always gone. But that gets you a job with, if your dad did that, that gets you a job with lifetime tenure at his place of business. I'm not sure when that's ever occurred. You're probably out of line to expect that. If she is so good at her job, I'm sure she's going to land on her feet somewhere. There are plenty of other, ABC, NBC, CNN, I'm sure would be glad to have her.
I can hear how much this has hurt you.
Yes, it's like your spouse being murdered. And I don't care about me. It's not about me.
Mrs. Pelley, you might want to have a talk with him about this.
I am not emotional about this because I have lost this job. I've done it for a long time. I've had the greatest experiences. But the people I leave behind, treated in this way, that breaks my heart. And it's going to take me a long time to get over it, to be perfectly honest.
One of the arguments that Barry Weiss has made about 60 Minutes and CBS News is that they need to be brought into the modern era. Nick Bilton also said in a staff meeting with you that broadcast is an ice cube that is melting. Do you think they have a point and that 60 Minutes needs to change, even if it's reaching a huge audience now? Does its metabolism, do the kinds of correspondence that it has have to change to reach a younger audience that interacts with media in a completely different way and looks at
This is a good
journalists, perhaps like you, as something from a different era?
question. This is a good
Too
question.
old.
It's a good
Of course,
question.
we have to reach out to a younger and younger audience. But their argument about joining the internet age is just disingenuous. It's almost as if Barry Weiss and Nick Bilton were sealed in a time capsule in 1990, and it just cracked open. They've just discovered the internet, and they're running around telling everybody how important it is.
See, and this is where he misses the point, because they're talking about the pace and once a week, and you work on a story and there's something to be said for working on a story long term. But he doesn't understand. They're talking about, do we do this more than just 7 p.m. Eastern time Sunday? Should we be, putting things up? And this was, something that around the time that I was let go from the San Diego Union Tribune, was starting to kind of emerge in newsrooms. Newsrooms, at least print newsrooms, still talk about it this way. It's digital first. We don't wait until the next day's paper runs. We don't wait to put it in the next day's paper and then put it up on the website. When I was still at the Union Tribune and the internet was, a relatively kind of new thing, your big stories got posted at, I want to say it was 2 a.m. after the paper was printed. It was the print first, digital second. And then it was, let's move it. No, people are checking our website. That's how we kind of need to make money nowadays. So it's digital first. We'll get it in the paper tomorrow. Maybe it'll slip another day depending on how big a paper we have, but we've got the story now digital first. And he's still not realizing that that's what they're talking about with them. Do we hold this till 7 p.m. Sunday? Or when we get it done Monday, do we get it out and we get it online first? I think the one who's in a time machine,
CBS News, yeah,
time capsule,
join the
Scott
fight.
Pelley.
We started our first 60 Minutes online show, 60 Minutes Overtime, in 2010. I shoot TikTok verticals, or I used to shoot TikTok verticals on every assignment. I shot material for overtime on every assignment.
Again, what's the order it's coming in? The overtime implies it's after the broadcast. And again, it's pace, and that's. Does he ever shot a 60 Minutes pre-game show or pre-show or,
We're there.
I think he's
We're
confused.
everywhere.
So you don't think 60 Minutes needs to change?
My point is that 60 Minutes is constantly changing, constantly innovating. So I just find the charge
16 years ago.
that we at 60 Minutes were frozen in amber in 1968 and nothing's ever changed since then. I find that absolutely absurd and the kind of argument that would be made by people who just don't know what we are.
Nick Bilton sent a very conciliatory note to the staff this past week.
At last.
He promised editorial independence. He praised some of your longtime colleagues, Leslie Stahl, Bill Whitaker, John Wortham. And I just want to say my producer just told me that while we've been talking, those three released a statement that they are staying at 60 Minutes. Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel?
Same reason I was staying. We felt like, I haven't talked to them. I assume it's the same reason. And we have had conversations before this about staying to maintain the principles of the broadcast. If we leave, we can't help. And that was my opinion. There have been other times when Anderson left, when others were fired, that we could have stormed into a meeting and quit. But those very distinguished correspondents and myself did have conversations about this over time and decided that we were better working on the inside and that we could influence things for the better. And we did. And it was my intention to stay and do exactly that.
Do you think, though, they can trust those assurances?
No. I would venture to say that trust is broken.
Do you think Barry Weiss needs to be removed?
Oh, gosh, yes. Look, she's a lovely person.
Why did they fire me? I think my boss should be sacked. I can't understand why they fired me.
And her free press organization that she founded has been very successful. She's proven that. Great for her. But television's not her thing. She brings an ideology into CBS News where that is just anathema. And so it's a terrible fit.
The thing is, and I don't think Barry Weiss's ideology is I think it's old school liberal. It's not progressive. It's not insane. It has not gone insane because of Trump. There's plenty to criticize Trump for. He deserves all the criticism. He lies a lot. Lots of his policies are absolutely insane. But he does some good things too. But you don't lose your mind over it. And there are people on the right and left, I've said this numerous times, who've lost their minds. And she's got her head on pretty straight. Politically, I don't agree with her a whole lot. Again, she is left of center. She is a good old school small L liberal journalist. The one who's out of whack here is Pelley.
It's probably not her fault, but it's just a terrible fit. She doesn't know television. She doesn't understand how it works. She doesn't have management experience for a large organization like CBS News. So, yes, I do think that we would be far better off without her. Maybe she goes back to the free press and has a sterling career. But this is like somebody walking up to me and saying, there's a 747. There are 400 people on it. We need you to fly it to Paris.
The difference between print journalism and broadcast journalism is not that great. It is not the difference between, Scott Pelley and flying a 747. It's not.
I'm going to decline because I don't have a clue. And it would have been so much better if Barry Weiss had been.
I'm curious to see if Pelley starts a Substack or something like that that's got some print. Again, it's the difference is negligible. There's some technical issues. Print journalists don't always know what things like B-roll is or B-roll is. There's some other things. There's some nitty-gritty techniques, but the journalism, which is the important part, is the same.
Offered this job and said, oh, that's not for me. I don't know how to do that.
President Trump reacted to your being fired.
Did he?
He went on a podcast and called you a stiff.
I'm surprised
that
the President of the United States would bother to notice.
That's
but
true.
okay. Please tell me. I'm not aware of this.
He also said you were part of this gang of stupid, crooked people that don't care about your country.
I don't think that's true either. I think he's wrong.
Stupid, I can take that. Stiff, yeah, probably. Don't care about the country.
This is where he's going to get on a soapbox.
I've never worn the uniform, but I've been in combat for this country in Afghanistan and Iraq.
See, it's not the same.
Kuwait.
It's not the same.
Been shot at. spent nights in foxholes, filling up with water in the desert. I'm not aware that the President of the United States has ever done any of those things for his country. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You become a journalist because you love the First Amendment. You become a journalist because you love the country. And while all the other descriptions that the president used about me might be applicable.
Maybe when he started, maybe. Journalists nowadays, I'm not sure. I'd love to see a pew poll or pointer or so. I'd love to see a journalistic organization. You know, why'd you become a journalist? I want to change the world. Did you become a journalist because you love the First Amendment? Maybe. How many would volunteer that? I'm not sure many would volunteer that.
Not that one. There is no democracy without journalism. It can't be done. And that is why I am a journalist.
Last few questions.
You know, on Fox News, they're going to just run the parts where I'm crying and say I'm a lunatic.
It's the era we live in.
It is the era we live in.
Scott, you joined CBS as a reporter in 1989.
Proudest day of my life.
You know, as I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking about, in many ways, how the story of modern CBS is the story of your own career, too. When you look back, because your tenure is now over, what do you hope your departure does? What do you hope will happen now?
My hope is that the leadership of Paramount will say to themselves, okay, this isn't working. We have broadcasts that almost don't get on the air. We have respected journalists saying that there is a thumb on the scale for one political party over another. We have a broadcast which is saying that there is a thumb on the scale for one political party over another. We have a broadcast which is...
And he seems to think that's Barry Weiss's thumb on the scale pushing for Trump. And I think there's a large part of the population of this country who would say she's just trying to kind of lift up your thumb from the other side of the scale. Just a little bit. Not a lot. She's not even chopping your finger off. She's not pushing it. Yeah. Fish don't know they're wet.
Among the most important in America, the most successful in the history of all of television. It was doing great. So why are we making these changes? We need adult supervision. And at the moment, we don't have it. We have people who've been installed in these jobs who, through no fault of their own, have no experience in television. It's not their fault. But they don't know what they're doing. And there's a subtle political bias that I've never seen at 60 Minutes before.
He's never seen the pushback. The political bias has been there the entire time. This is the first time he's ever seen any pushback. That's the proper way to translate this. Sad, but true.
And so, or at CBS News before. And so that is my hope, a return to sanity, a return to honor, a return to courage. We used to have all of those things in abundance, and now we don't. We can't
imagine how we got
save
fired.
This. It's possible to land this plane.
And now we're mixing
but
our
right
metaphors.
now, CBS News, in my view, is on fire.
Oh, man.
Scott Pelley, thank you so much
Everyone
for coming
needs
in
an
today.
editor. Land the airplane, it's on fire. Okay, what's this again? CBS News spokesperson replied. In an email, Barry made 4 points in the course of editorial back and forth. They had no political motivation, were proposed solely to make the piece as strong, fair, and accurate as possible. As is frequently the case in any newsroom that operates with collaboration, not everything she raised made it into the final piece. Fair enough. No plans. There you go. Music's kind of chill. I definitely want to go to sleep now. Okay.
I'm Lulu Garcia Navarro.
And I'm David Marchese.
And we're the hosts of...
There you go. Overall, interesting interview. This has been a lot longer. I made it through the entire thing. Yay me. I understand, ladies and gentlemen, if very few of you watched to this point in the video. If you are interested in journalism, this was probably a good one. You know, hey, have this playing in the background as you're doing something else. But you know, again, buy my book. I talk about a lot about bias and journalism and fish not knowing they're wet, and just Scott Pelley gives a masterclass. He has lived in a bubble. He doesn't understand what a good portion of America thinks about the bias at CBS News. It says something even inside 60 Minutes. You know, I'll go back to the last time there was kind of a huge blow up on this sort of thing, like huge. Would have been the Dan Rather Bush National Guard story that used forged documents. How could you tell they were forged? The documents were printed using a font, Times New Roman, that did not exist at the time of Bush's National Guard service. Wasn't invented until a decade and a half later. And yet, there was such enthusiasm for the possibility of tanking George W. Bush's re-election that they tossed journalism out the window. Everyone there, same mindset, same wanting to do the same thing. Just didn't even. I mean, it has not really changed. The impulse, the innate kind of view of the world and view of politics is the same. It is from a left of center perspective. How far left of center? Barry Weiss is trying to bring it back towards the middle. Will she get it to the middle? I don't think she'll get it to the middle. But if she's moving it back in that direction, that's a good thing for CBS News. That's a good thing for journalism. That's a good thing for journalism in the United States. Do not ever consider losing your job because you mouthed off to your boss. Or people have been laid off from where you work. The same thing as your wife getting murdered. No, don't do that, because it's not the same, and that kind of shows a little lack of perspective and self-control and all that other sort of stuff. Anyways, again, thanks for joining me. Check out my book. I'm going to be on some other podcasts here in the coming days and weeks, and I'll be on the radio tonight. If you've watched this far, Dave Congleton, 9:20 a.m., KVEC at the 5 o'clock hour on the West Coast. You can go to their website and listen to it live. I'll be talking about Ken Paxton and Graham Plattner. And thanks for joining me. Appreciate your time. Tell your friends, buy my book. Tell your friends to buy my book. Follow me on Substack and all the other places, and thanks for joining me.